Tonight, a look at the growing number of American businesses setting up shop overseas to avoid paying U.S. taxes. We're going to hear from two experts who have two very different ideas, whether this is good business or corporate non-patriotism here. And we will head out to Long Island, a sad story if you haven't heard this already. Friends and family mourning the loss of a young man who died on the football field here. Tom Cutinello, one of three high school football players who have lost their lives playing the sport across America. We will be heading out to Long Island to hear more about that and also talk more about the more and more questions parents have about letting their kids suit up to play football. Plus, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul sounding off about the Ebola crisis. Paul now says the CDC is downplaying the issue. Has he crossed the line? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us. And we begin tonight in New York City, where some elected officials and community leaders may still be laughing a little by some of the jokes made at the Alfred E. Smith Memorial Foundation dinner. Now, Governor Andrew Cuomo, he sat alongside Mayor DeBlasio at last night's event, and the NYPD Commissioner Bill Bratton not too far behind. The Waldorf packed with those ready to help raise money for the New York Archdiocese Catholic Charities. DeBlasio, the butt of a series of groundhog jokes, as you'd expect. And Home Depot co-founder Ken Langone, who's the chief organizer of Republicans for Cuomo, took a few shots at Cuomo and DeBlasio. Langone at one point saying Andrew and his TV host brother, Chris, would like to switch places. Chris would like more attention, and Andrew hopes no one's watching. And when it came to DeBlasio, Langone said, "I don't see the person in charge of the NYPD here tonight, Al Sharpton." All right, I want to bring it to our panel here. Richard Brodsky, former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos, professor at NYU, and fully invested in the media. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. And Bill O'Reilly, Republican strategist who served as Rob Astorino's spokesman in his two successful runs for Westchester County exec. Hey, Dom, I start with you. You've been to a few of these Alfred E. Smiths. They get funny, and also sometimes there's those awkward moments because they hit a little too close to the truth here.
Well, number one, it's a big gathering, as you well know, and it's black tie and the Cardinals there and the photo ops. But when it comes to the jokes, it's almost like a roast. The great-grandson of Governor Smith, Alfred E. Smith, tells his voice is somewhat raspier than mine, and he gets up there, and whoever's in the line of patent, you're going to get it. Whether it's the mayor, the governor, and they focus in and zoom in. It's really good. It's all done in good taste, I think, and to raise money. But you know, it was interesting, the two competing dinners last night.
Absolutely. We're going to get to the second one from Mr. Sharpton in a little bit here, but you know, Ken Langone, if many people remember, not just from Home Depot, but he's Chris Christie's guy. I mean, he was the guy who was trying to push Christie into the race 2 years ago for president, and ostensibly a lot of people believe will be this time around.
No, he's Elliot Spitzer's guy.
Well, he's also Chris Christie.
You see? Yeah. It goes two ways when you let it.
His jokes, let's start first with Mr. Cuomo, talking about, you know, Christopher Cuomo from CNN, ostensibly not getting too many eyeballs in the morning, and Andrew Cuomo trying to avoid eyeballs at all costs.
It's good whoever's doing them. I mean, as long as the lines are good, it's one of those times when, you know, it's supposed to be off the record. It was for years. And you people in the press.
And you're in that fourth statement.
You people.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
what I meant. You said black tie. That's been broken. It's true for the presidents, the Gridiron Club dinner. Yeah. There's one up at Albany called the Legislative Correspondence Dinner. When you can get Rudy Giuliani in drag, then maybe we.
Apparently, it's not that hard to do it. You know, he did it a few times.
Joe Bruno rode it in a white horse.
There we go. He did.
Bill, the one that I thought was funny, but also a little bit was his shot about. I don't see the head of the police department here, Al Sharpton. We'll talk about it in a second where he is, but. You know, you got Bratton sitting right there.
Totally. And you have Al Sharpton's dinner across the street, basically, or down the street. One thing that Governor Cuomo was trying to avoid also, they said the eyes, which was not in the press today, was, of course, as the incumbent, and I'm not blaming him for this, he's trying to avoid running into Rob Astorino, who's there. And they actually ran into each other in a back hallway, which is not reported. And just by total coincidence, Rob was making a phone call, and the governor and his people came down the hallway. They stopped, turned, went into an exit door to get away from them, and they
Zeppelin
went to
keeps
nowhere.
out over
It was
and over
nowhere, so
again.
they had to come back and confront each other. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, those are fun events. I mean, that's fun stuff. That's the better side of politics, where you can really hit each other for a night and laugh it off.
Well, I'll bring in the next one because Governor Cuomo ducked out of the Alfred E. Smith. Maybe he went in a broom closet when he was looking for an exit door because he was making his way over to Reverend Al Sharpton's 60th birthday bash, also as we mentioned was last night. Mayor DeBlasio not far behind. The mayor heading over to the party at the Four Seasons. As soon as the dinner ended, DeBlasio said Sharpton was a blessing for the city. Governor Cuomo had a few words to say about Sharpton himself.
He has grown immensely over the years, and he's no longer just New York's Reverend Al Sharpton. He's the nation's Reverend Al Sharpton.
Dominic, I can't help but remember, we talked about this last night, his father, right? Around the same time of the whole Brawley affair, he wasn't talking about him being the nation's Reverend Al Sharpton, or let alone the city. I have longer memories, we talked about this last night, than many about the Al Sharpton I knew from the whole Tawana Brawley affair and the Pagonis and the wake he left behind him, but unbelievable. The politics and the metrics and how much has changed here in 20 years.
Well, normally I don't like to kiss and tell, but I recall some private conversations, myself, Mayor Koch, after he left office, and Al Sharpton. And Koch is a straight shooter. And Koch would go, you know, Al, you're never going to go to the top until you apologize for Brawley. You got it, but you got to apologize for Brawley. And Sharpton would go, and that was the end of it.
That's the difference between Koch and Cuomo. If you listen carefully to what Cuomo said, Dominic, it was a non-compliment compliment. He used to be just New York City, now he's nationwide. Well, that could be true if you're Mother Teresa or Attila the Hun.
Right, but we didn't finish the comment. And finishing the comment,
he said the nation's better for him.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
okay.
right, right. So no. Andrew Cuomo is not. You can call him whatever you want, but don't call him stupid. So 3 years and what? I'm trying to say 99% of the governor's tenure, he hates Al Sharpton and will have nothing to do with him. But there are 2 days out of the year that Andrew Cuomo, the governor, goes
Primary and the general.
Right, it's called the election year and King Day. And even on King Day this year, Cuomo didn't show up. We can all disagree on Sharpton. I know that we do, but you know, he got the president's ear, and every politician in town.
I don't mean to be the bummer on the set, but I think Andrew Cuomo lacks the moral clarity that his father had when it comes to Al Sharpton. I mean, Al Sharpton's, it's a lot of fun. We can all pretend that he's all rehabbed, but you think about those people who died in Freddie's Fashion Mart. You think about what he did to Stephen Pagonis. Had he apologized years ago for some of those things, maybe he could rehab in the mind of a lot of people, but he never did. He's completely unapologetic, and I think you need moral clarity from a governor. Even in tough situations. I know he wants to appeal to Al Sharpton's followers, but you don't do it. His father wouldn't have done it. Andrew Cuomo should have done it.
So much for the Al Smith dinner and the good-natured, one day a year. You gave us 20 minutes of smiling, good faith, and then we're back to usual.
Could you, seriously, 20 years ago, I tell you, Al Sharpton, all right, he's not going to have the medallion and the jumpsuit, but he's going to have the tailored suits and the pimped hair's gone, and he's going to cast this much power. Do you think his power is exaggerated, or it is as real as obviously the president thinks? You have obviously the governor thinks, the mayor thinks. He's elevated and put him on the same stage with Bratton on these.
He's influential, and people in a number of communities, not including but not limited to the black community, spend a lot of time listening to what he says. They make their own judgments, but he's an opinion leader, and you pay attention to opinion leaders. There are people in both parties, in all forms of government, who have made terrible, terrible mistakes, done some bad things, and have tried to be creative, constructive, and positive. I mean, you can look backwards or you're looking forwards. He's a backwards looker, I'm a forwards
let me
looker.
just say, look at this year, whether it's Missouri, whether it's Staten Island, you pick every incident where there's a racial component to it. The first phone call that's made here after the incident in terms of shaping the public image one way or the other is to Reverend Sharpton. I can't believe it, but it's real. It's not imagined. And he has gone beyond the 5 boroughs.
But Richard, let me put it to you this way. I hear and respect what you're saying, but I ask you.
I agree with him, by the way, more than you do. Yep.
Okay, fine. When's the last time you heard from Bill Thompson?
Yep.
thanks to Al Sharpton. Sharpton said, either you get out there on police brutality or you're done. Thompson said, no, I'm running as a moderate in this race. Sharpton said, okay, Bill DeBlasio, you're my guy. Who's the mayor of New York now?
Point taken. Now, I want to get to a story that you guys know better than I, because we hear about this, but you've lived it here. A state assemblyman from New York City is facing charges for allegedly using his campaign funds for personal expenses. William Scarborough, Queens Democrat, pleaded guilty in Albany County Court on Wednesday morning. Scarborough pleaded not guilty, excuse me. He's facing grand larceny charges and accused of filing false campaign documents. Thank you for that, Richard. But at the end of, at the root of this, or the nut of this, is his per diem. Explain a little bit to the public how the per diem works here, and if there is a lot of funny business that goes on.
The state constitution provides for compensation and expenses of members who went on legislative business in the Capitol. The allegations against Bill Scarborough are that he submitted vouchers for the money, asserting he was in Albany. He was not. If those facts prove to be true, he's guilty of a crime and will pay for it.
Is it more common than the public may imagine?
No. I mean, it's become harder and harder in public life to explain that the 90% of the legislature, 95% of the legislature, are honest and doing the best they can, even when they're wrong, as most of Bill's friends are. Look, if you want to do percentages, in the metropolitan area, in Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York, about a third of the last governors have been taken out for ethical misconduct, and the number of the legislature is less than 5%.
I wasn't trying to pick the chambers, one over the other.
But let's get it out the way now. Go ahead with the journalists, because when you're done, then I'm going to start.
You're no better than we are. That's all I got to say about you guys.
Now listen, I'm not saying this because he's here.
No, I don't compliment me.
No, good lawmaker, straight record. Half of these guys in Albany, there's no other way to put this. They are straight poverty pimps that should have never, no, I'm being as honest as I can be.
You're not being honest.
That should have never been elected. Poverty pimps that when they were done pimping programs for the community, they figured out their next pimp was the legislature in Albany. And thus, let me just finish. And thus count to 10.
Let's step outside.
No, you would win. You would win. I don't want to step outside. But these guys, it's horrendous what they're doing. And that's not the only allegation against him. The allegation is that he raided his campaign funds. He's now claiming and pleading innocent that it was money he had loaned to his campaign. Well, the disclosure forms don't seem to back that up. They're poverty pimps that are stealing money, and it's a scheme that's gone on for years. You're in New York City, you bill for the per diem in Albany. I guarantee you, if a U.S. attorney looked at 90% of their expense records, you could indict at least 60% of the legislature.
He's wrong.
Poverty pimps.
He's flat out wrong. And the controller looks at the vouchers regularly. That's how Tommy DiNapoli, who used to serve there, is a friend of Bill Scarborough's for years, is the guy who uncovered the wrongdoing and brought it forward.
Yes.
It's bad enough that there are a few of them, Dominic, to pretend that it's most of the legislature is just factually wrong. Settle it. We got 1-to-1.
No, I think majority are honest. I do.
Majority?
I do. But I do think that there are a lot, like the nonprofits that get started and then you steer money from your member.
Wait, the nonprofits are for what? That's to help with what? Nonprofits are to do
some
what?
Poverty
programs.
I agree.
And those are the programs that they raid and go to jail for.
Even in the campaign finance program, you go into a campaign, you get a 6-to-1 matching fund, and what do? You buy computers, you buy iPads, you buy iPods, you buy all the stuff that you need for the campaign when you're going to win that election in some districts 97-3. And then what happens to stuff?
There are no state matching funds.
City.
We're beating up on the legislature here.
No, I'm talking about people abusing the system.
I'm not beating up. I'm telling the truth.
You're telling me.
No, I'm telling the truth.
There were a lot of very good people.
Well, these two throw haymakers in a break here.
Dark night.
We're going to go from Albany.
You too.
I did nothing. When we come back, is big business bailing on paying its taxes? Not illegal here, but the numbers show that more U.S. businesses, they're setting up headquarters overseas to avoid paying Uncle Sam. The president says this is unpatriotic. Well, we'll talk to two experts on two sides of this debate when we come back.